Good morning, students. Today we start the second session of second chapter, which is in first unit. We start from handling errors and exceptions. Before that, we studied about what is VB.NET and what is variables, constants, operators, data types. Okay, here we move to handling errors and exception. What is error? Handling errors. Each and everyone has the challenge for catching errors and other conditions, other extraordinary conditions in the code. It's a challenge, a great challenge for programmers. For finding problems or finding errors and finding solutions for that errors are very challengeable. If any of the errors are unnoticed during the program execution, it may cause various problems in subsequent code. Also, it will provide a failure project. So, handling errors is a very important one during software development. Here, there are two types of exception handling. One is unstructured error handling, another one is structured error handling. Okay, what is exception? Exception is an error or extraordinary condition which make the program failure or some other causes. Okay, first we move on to unstructured error handling. What is unstructured error handling? Last class I explained about unstructured conditional statement, unconditional statement, that is exit, go to. Like that, unstructured error handling consists of the statement on error go to. On error go to. It is an unstructured error handling because there is any structured code for that. If there is any error in a code, we just place the label on error go to and give a label name. After that, we give the label anywhere. Just see the example. Here the program code consists of sub error handling demo. It is an example program. In the starting of the code, I specify on error go to ERR underscore handler. If there is an error while executing the error handling demo procedure, just move on to ERR underscore handler label. Here in ERR underscore handler label, there is a message console.writeLine of ERR.description. After that, there is a label, that is unconditional statement go to done. Next the control move on to done label. In the under the done label, there is a statement exit sub, which is equal to terminate the procedure. Okay, this is an unstructured error handling. VB.NET provides a statement called on error go to. This code introduces a couple of new VB.NET concept, code labels and ERR object. Code label means here code label says ERR underscore handler, that is the code label. Next ERR object, that this line console.writeLine of ERR.description, that is the ERR object. Got it, students? Next we move on to structured exception handling. This is the standard way to handling the exception. Each and every code should be executed properly without error. So this is the best practice, that is structured exception handling is the best practice for a standard application. Here a structured error handler begins with the try keyword. This is already you studied in your Java programming. It begins with the try keyword. This is known as the try block. The statements within the try is try block. Following the try block, after that the try block has one or more catch blocks. From the name itself, what is the meaning of catch? Hold, just get catch blocks. Each and every catch has an associated exception type. What are the different types of exceptions? From the Java itself, you study about the arithmetic exception, array out of bound exception, divide by zero exception. These are some of the exceptions. These exceptions are cached in the catch section, catch blocks. So each catch has an association exception type and its declaration follows the catch keyword. Next, there is also an exception called exception. Exception is a built-in class which can catch any exception regardless of type. If we specify any exception type, it will catch that particular exception. If we specify catch of catch ES divide by zero exception or catch ES array out of bound exception, it will catch that array out of bound only. Otherwise, if it is specified as divide by zero exception, means it will catch only the divide by zero exception. If we set exception, it will catch any type of exception regardless of type. It may be an array out of bound exception, it may be an divide by zero exception, it may be of arithmetic exception, etc. etc. Any type of exceptions are handled with the help of exception. After all exceptions have been tested and caught, finally the finally block is executed. The try block will identify the errors and the catch block will handle the errors and the finally block is executed. Finally execute the non-erroneous code. Thus, finally block consists of the success message. VB.NET provides the ability to throw our own exception. Also, there is an exception which is built-in exception or man-made exceptions. Compile time exception and runtime exception. Each and compile time exception is also handled in VB.NET. Runtime exception is also handled in VB.NET. Next, we move on to our object-oriented programming concept. Our VB.NET has the new programming concept, object-oriented programming. The major element of object-oriented programming is the object. You studied it from your second semester, C++, in Java. In Visual Basic itself, you study about the object. What is object? An object is a collection of data and operations performed on the data. That means an object is a collection of data member and member functions. Data member means our inputs. Member function means that inputs are processed by an operation. For an example, consider a gasoline engine. Gasoline engine has several physical characteristics such as it contains various number of cylinders, then its horsepower, then it is 5 volts, 5 HP, 6 HP, 7 HP. This it is its capacity, its horsepower, then its manufacturer serial number and torque. Several actions may be taken on the gasoline engine. What are the actions? Starting the machine, stopping the machine, increasing or decreasing the speed. These are the things happen with the gasoline engine. Here, the data are the number of cylinders, horsepower, manufacturer serial number. Here, the operation is starting, stopping, increasing or decreasing its power. So, a gasoline engine is an object which consists of some physical characters and which consists of some operations. Just like our arithmetic operation program. Here, the data are two inputs. Arithmetic operation performed on, if the program going to perform arithmetic operation on 2 number means its data are 2 inputs. And what are the operation performed it? addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. These are the operations. So, arithmetic calculator is an object. Is it, students? Got it? Okay. Next, our first concept of object-oriented programming is class basics. You all are know about class basics. Each and every class starts with class definition. You already know from C++, Java. How will you define class? Class name. Yeah, just creating classes starts with a class definition. The class block terminate with the end class statement. Inside the class block, there are member variables and member function declaration. Member variables and from my last example, arithmetic calculator. What are the member variables? First number input and the second number input are the member variable. What are the member function declaration? Void add, void subtract, void multiply, void division. These are the member function declarations. Got it, students? Okay, next we move on to our VB.NET class access modifiers. In the last class itself, I told you that scope and lifetime of a variable. Just like that, the class members also have some scope and lifetime. The scope and lifetime specifies the access modifiers. What are the access modifiers in VB.NET? What are the class access modifiers in VB.NET? Private, public, protected, friend, protected friend. These are also you studied from your C++ programming languages. Anyway, I explain here also. First access modifier is private. Private means private. For example, private property. My own property is termed as private property, my personal property. If it is a government property, it is a public property. Anybody can use this. Transport, nationalized bank, these are public property. If my vehicle is named as my own personal vehicle is named as my private property. Okay, just like private. Here, the member can be used only from within the class in which the member is defined. If a member is specified as an access modifier private, that member must be used only inside the class where the member is defined. We can't use that private member outside the class. It must be used only inside the class where the member is defined. Public. Public means member can be used globally. We can use the public member anywhere in the current code module. Okay. Next, protected. An application consists of various classes. Okay. In that various classes, private members are used only within the member defined inside the class. That one class only we can use. But public member can be accessed anywhere inside the module. Okay, got it? Next, protected. Member can be used within the class in which the member is defined plus any derived class. It is used in where it is used? Inheritance. It can be, the protected member can be used inside the class where the member is defined and also use the derived class. Got it? Next, friend access modifier. Member can be accessed from modules that are outside the class but part of the project or assembly within which the class is defined. This friend member can be accessed from modules that may be outside the class, but it should be the part of the current project or any configuration file within the class itself. Next, protected friend. Protected friend means our access modifier protected the functionality of access combined functionality of protected access modifier and the friend access modifier. Okay, got it, students? Next, we move on to class properties. Class are object. Each and every object has the property. Likewise, class also has certain properties. Class properties are similar to class member variable. A property definition begins with an access modifier. That is, it may be either private, public, protected friend or protected friend. And the property keyword, followed by a name for the property and an as class to designate the data type for the property. For example, just like our variable declaration. How we declare the variable inside the VB.NET? Dim variable name. After that we using as class, and after that data type. Likewise, the class property is defined with the help of access modifier, and after that property keyword, next the property name, after that as class, next the data type. Okay, next the class methods, member variables and properties are accessed using the dot operator. For example, in our C++ program, Java program, in the main function we call the object. How will you call the object? Class name, object name equal to new class name of. Likewise, if we here I give the example as I specify that member variable in a variable, variable equal to that particular class object dot. How will you access the class properties? With the help of the dot operator. It is an important one word, just mark it, students. How the member variables and properties are accessed? With the help of dot operator. Now come general form. Variable equal to object dot member variable. Next return value equal to object dot function name. Next object dot member variable equal to value. Got it, students? Next we move on to constructors and destructors. These are the topics you are very experienced one. Constructor, you are all know about the constructor. Constructor means creating an instance. It will allocate the memory or memory for the class while executing the program. Destructor means destroying the memory. Constructor means allocating the memory, and the destructor means destroying the memory. Each and every program has constructor and also has destructor. While the program got execution, the constructor is initiated. While the program terminate the execution, the destructor will fired. Okay. Next, constructor and destructor. Using a class requires creating an instance of it and then destroying it. For each and every class needs an instance, and after execution it will automatically destroyed. A constructor is a code statement that creates an instance of a new variable. An instance of a variable or object is an in-memory and actively used image of an object or variable. An instance of a variable or object is an in-memory, that means allocating memory and actively used the object or variable. All classes must have a constructor to be used. Next we move on to what is destructor. Destructor means, already I told you, no? Destructor means destroying the memory. When the memory will be destroyed? After successful execution of program. There are two ways to invoking the destructor. The first way, if the class object falls out of scope, that means our scope is, if we specify the access modifier is private, if it goes beyond the scope, it will automatically terminate the program. In that particular period, the destructor is invoked. The destructor can be called immediately when the class object is set to special constant called nothing. If the keyword read as nothing, the destructor is called automatically. Here is an example. How will you specify the nothing keyword? My class object is equal to nothing. Next we move on to inheritance. Inheritance means deriving a new class from a base class. The derived class has the characteristics of the base class. It allows one class to take on characteristics of another class. That new class is called as the derived class. It assumes the behavior of the base class. Derived class also contains new members which act as a superset of the base class. Derived class consists of members of the base class as well as a new member inside the derived class. Inheritance eliminates redundant class definition. To define a derived class, use the inherits keyword. How will you declare the property? With the help of property keyword. How to define how to inherit a class? How to define a derived class? Use the inherits keyword. Sorry students. Next, use the inherit keyword in the code line after the class statement. After that, the following inherits. After that, the inherit keyword specify the base class name. Next, overridden function. Overridden functions are supply with the keyword overridable. It consists of some modifier or statements, that is, first inherits class name. It helps to designate that the current class will inherit that particular class name. Non-inheritable. It specifies that the current class can't be inherited by another class. Must inherit. It specifies that the class cannot be created on its own. A derived class must be created from this class. Next, its a property or method modifiers. Last, we saw about the class modifiers and the statements. Here, the method modifiers. The property or method modifiers. First modifier is overridable. Next, overrides. Not overridable. Must override. Overridable allows the method or property to be overridden in the derived class. Overrides. It designates that the function or property overrides a function or property in the base class, not overridable. It prevents a method or property defined in the base class from being overridden in a derived class. The default for class, it is the default for class properties or methods. Must override means the method modifiers must be override and that must inherit in the defined for must be defined for the class. Next, overloading. Overloading means class with the same name but will be act with differently based on its data types and the arguments passed on it. Here, overloading means procedure and property names have a unique name. There might be circumstances in which you must create duplicate procedure and property names. This is known as overloading. For example, function overloading program in a Java. Just imagine that function overloading program. Then you are calculating the area of the triangle, area of the rectangle and area of the circle. Three functions have the same name, area, area, area. For area of the circle, you are passing only one argument, that is, you are passing radius as input. Next, you will pass for area of the rectangle, you will pass the length and breadth. Here, 2 arguments. After that, you will pass 3 arguments. Its half value, next height and width. Based on these arguments and data types, that function will be executed differently. That is overloading. Function having common name that operates on different data types. Next, polymorphism overview. You all know about polymorphism. Polymorphism means one in many forms and is an important concept in OOPS. Next, interfaces. It is an important concept. It doesn't have any definition. It just needs only implement. It does not have any implementation. It has only declaration. That means it is for from software engineering. You studied about the software development. In software development life cycle, you will know about the rapid application development. That means if you are developing a product, first you introduce the project in the market. After that, in the back end, you will add new thing in that particular product. That is rapid application development. For that, the interfaces are used. Interfaces are similar to classes. They group together members, properties and methods, but do not provide any implementation of those members, properties and methods. It specifies a protocol of communication between the implementer and the caller of the class. It doesn't have any implementation, but it provides a protocol of communication between the implementer and the caller of the class. Next, interfaces are implemented in VB.NET through use of the interface, and it ends with end interface. Like the class starts with a class and end with end class. Just like that, interfaces start with interface and end with end interface. After that, we are going to know about the multi-threaded programming. Multi-threading means, in the first class itself, I told you multi-threading. Multi-threading means single program may execute concurrently without any number of times. Concurrently, any number of times. Sequentially execution and any number of times. Here, application typically several tasks. For example, handling an application will handling user input, at the same time sorting large data list, also sending data to other applications and so on. These are the functionalities done together by a single application. That means several tasks are done concurrently by a single applications. They are multi-threaded programming. It helps to it will maximize access of resources for CPU intensive applications to make the applications multi-threaded. In .NET framework, these applications are referred to as free-threaded. Next, thread synchronization. Thread synchronization means sometimes a program must wait until termination of a thread. So, the other thread will have accurate data that is processed by the first thread. Just like our thread life cycle. You study sometimes a program must wait until termination of a thread. So, the other thread will have accurate data. If thread means task, thread is a task. If any other thread has the accurate data, that will be processed first. This coordination of thread is called thread synchronization. Generally, there are two methods for synchronize the threads. That is by using the isLive function of system.threading.thread or by using events. One is by using the system.threading.thread class or by using the events. These are the two methods. First method is system.threading.thread and the second method is events. Next, events and threading synchronization. What is an event? Event is an action that performed on the class. That action can be activated when some set of circumstances happens. If I beat somebody, there is an action. They will expose their emotion. That is the event. The event can be handled by the host. When you want to raise an event, just call the following statement: raise event, something happened of. A class that contains events should be declared in the following. How will you declare the event? Dim with events of a class as see my class that has events. Okay. This is the last part of our second chapter, and here itself the first unit is finished. Okay students, keep studying students. I will put test in between period. And also I will give you assignments. Okay students, if you need any help or if you have any doubt, just ask my YouTube channel or through WhatsApp group or through Google Classroom. Got it students? Keep preparing and take notes. Please bring your textbook. Okay, my slides will help you just passing your examination. If you need more marks and need more about your subject, you must bring your textbook. I will come with a live class session. In that live class session, I ask all of you to show your textbook. Okay students, so please get your book and keep it with you. It will help you a lot. Okay students, thank you.